Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Gopal Nayak ji, the Chief Speaker of today's function, Dr. D.K. Manoj Kumar sir, Chairperson WDRA, Shri Samuel Praveen, Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, the representative from NCML. So firstly, I'd like to thank you for elevating me to the status of a doctor. I actually, I may be registered in a PhD, but I'm not a doctor, but thank you for that honor that you have bestowed. So just very, very brief, because I think we're running short of time as well. So I'd really like to congratulate Dr. Gopal Nayak. I think that was really an excellent report, very timely and very required. And as he has pointed out, I think the data in this sector is very sparsely available. It is very piecemeal available because we have so many various, I mean, I can speak from the ministry's perspective. Then when we talk of agri warehousing, it is, the dilemma is that there's an agriculture ministry which deals with all the issues regarding, the agricultural produce. But as far as storage is concerned, suddenly somebody has a bright idea that there's a joint secretary storage who should deal with all storage of all agri commodities. But then the dilemma comes that our mandate in the ministry is only to deal with food grains, and that too food grains for the central pool stock, which is for the PDS operations. But I think we have bravely shouldered that. So I just like to. So the idea is that I don't think that even the ministries or in this entire sector can work in silos. I think we have to work in close coordination with each other. And I'll just very briefly point out that first I'll just talk about the policy interventions that Professor Nayak has pointed out and what is actually being done now. First, I'd like to take up the cap storage. So I'm happy to let everybody know that actually there has been a policy decision to phase out cap completely, that covered in Plinth storage. The FCI has already phased out the cap that it owns, and the states have a 5-year plan to phase out the cap storage and then to convert it also to covered storage, for which we have given an in-principle approval to give a 5-year guarantee for hiring to the various states. Now, cap, I understand. I mean, it was actually meant to be a transit storage, and cap is a scientifically accepted method of short-term storage, especially for wheat, not for rice, of course. But given the large volumes of procurement that the FCI had to do, and the the sparse dispersal or the dispersal over a period of several months or even years, that is why the cap storage used to pile up. So, but that policy decision has been taken, and apart from conventional storage, I think we're trying to use new technologies. Of course, there's been a mention of silos. So we have a program right now of construction of 111 lakh metric ton of steel silos for wheat exclusively, because we don't have the technology for rice silos as yet. So probably this is one of the issues, that one of the gaps that perhaps later studies can be done, that what are the various technologies available all over the world for rice silos. We have a pilot project going on in Kaimur and Buxar in Bihar, and as I speak, my director storage is there in Bihar today, and then there's been specific instructions to him and go and visit and see what is happening at Kaimur and Buxar. But nevertheless, this wheat storage silo is also for the central pool stock, which is the food grains procured by FCI for the PDS system. Now, in my interactions with the agriculture councillors of various embassies, especially Australia, I believe Australia has some kind of a model by which the farmer cooperatives themselves, they set up silos. Of course, Australia is one of the countries which is a large producer of food grains and various other agricultural commodities. So perhaps this model can be looked at and see whether we can. Now FCI goes in for bulk silos. I mean, the average for the financials to work out, it has to be at least 50,000 metric tons. We have some silos of 25,000 metric tons, but on average it is around 50,000 to 1 lakh metric tons, because that is how the financials work out. There's bulk movement, bulk storage, bulk transportation. But maybe at the farmers level, if they are able to set up cooperatives and which can construct silos, they can be of smaller quantities. This technology is already available. I believe some private companies are already doing that, even for rice silos. So once that is done, I think the quality of food grain storage, that can be improved tremendously, and I think the farmers can then directly interact with the market for the sale of their commodities, especially rice and wheat, which we can speak about. The other thing is one lacunae or one gap which has been pointed out by the chairperson WDRA as well is Farmgate logistics, because when you're talking about silos or FCI warehouses or CWC warehouses, or actually most of the commercial warehousing in the country, that is by established companies or established organizations. As far as cooperatives are concerned, we've done a bit of interaction with cooperatives from various states as well as through the agricultural ministry, and we find that there is very little storage of agri commodities in these small warehouses. It is more for fertilizers and cement and things like that. So perhaps Farmgate logistics is something that can be looked at, and I think that probably would go hand in hand with farmer digital literacy as well, because we are talking about ENWRs and using for trading, but then of course this is happening through established organizations right now, which is absolutely understandable, given that this is the first stage, this is the incipient stages at this moment. I would like to share that through one of our companies, which is the Central Railside Warehousing Company, we have set up a pilot project for Farmgate logistics in Arunachal Pradesh. There are three districts, Changlang, Lohit and Lower Subansiri. So on a 50% cost sharing basis, the entire project is about 1.8 crores. So the idea is that the land is provided by the state government, and on a cost sharing basis, a 10 empty solar powered storage, something like a big container, like a 10 LMT refrigerated container is provided right at the grassroots level to the farmer. And there's also the provision for a refrigerated van to carry their products to the market. So if that becomes a success, perhaps that is one model that can be looked at. And I think globally, whatever models have succeeded, especially in countries like South America and Africa and so on, I think that can be looked at, because if we compare with USA, probably their entire ecosystem is a bit different, because the land holding pattern in India is different, and it's different in USA or Russia or these other countries. So the last initiative that I'd like to share with you is about, we were talking about the paucity of data, and also the reliability of data, and of course from the government sector, FCI, NCWC, NCRWC, and maybe some of the other organizations like NAFED and so on in the government sector. These must have been the sources of data for this report. But for the private sector, I think even from the ministry side, when we try to deal with the private sector, I think we come up with a wall as far as data is concerned. So we are thinking of, we have also discussed, and there is a portal which we're calling the WDMS portal, the Warehouse Development Management System, on which we plan to put all the data of warehousing in the country, whether it is the government sector and the private sector. And just to assuage the fears of the private sector, is going to be password protected. It is not going to be a public open information, so that anybody can look at that. Even for the private sector, I think it's only the some key government functions who will be able to look at that data as to where the warehouses are and what are the commodities they are storing. This is purely for policy intervention. It is not for or for policy decisions. It is not for any other purpose. So that process is on. We actually are in touch with NICSI, and the data of FCI and CWC has already been migrated. And the next step would be to bring on the state warehousing corporations, and parallelly I think we'll open up a dialogue with the private sector. So I think we would just like to request them. This is going to be very, very basic data about the location of warehouses, their capacity and their stock, and it's going to be available on real-time basis to very select government functionaries. So these were some of the, just one last issue as well, because we deal also closely with the World Food Programme. And there's a particular technology which they call a mobile storage unit. Perhaps the feasibility of that can also be seen. Very basically, it means if there's as a constructed plinth, then on that a superstructure made of canvas and aluminium steel frame, or it can be a pre-manufactured steel structure like a floor span. So we are doing that with an experimental basis in Ramnagar in Uttarakhand, to see the cost. What are the cost implications of that? and we're going to, based on the results of that pilot, we are going to take a policy decision on whether CAP itself should be converted into MSU, which is a canvas or a steel storage. The advantage is that it comes up very fast. It hardly takes 24 hours to put that up once the plinth is in place. And the grain remains there for about like 4 or 5 years, provided there is no very severe natural calamity and so on. So these are some of the technology interventions that probably at the grassroots level, which can also be looked at, which will directly benefit the farmer or his or her commodities. And last point, I think, as far as global storage, and warehousing practices are concerned, again we find a dearth of quality and reliable data. So perhaps that is also one arena that probably future studies can look at. So we're able to make our policies accordingly, seeing that what are the standards in developed countries and also developing countries, which are more akin to the situation that is in India. So thank you so much. I think it was a very enlightening session, and I'm really glad for this report. I think it is going to be. I was already planning once this report was received, I was already calculating how many copies I would require for my storage division in the ministry. So thank you so much. I think it's going to fulfill. I think it's going to fill in quite a long-standing gap in this sector regarding information and agri warehousing. Thank you.